Afternoon, everybody. We will start with the broadcast section that's got no embargo, excuse me, followed by an embargoed section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. No live tweeting or blogging during the broadcast section, please, and phones on silent. James.
Hi, Ange. What's the latest on James Maddison's injury?
Yeah, Matters trained today, unrestricted, so CA pulls up, but at this stage looks like he'll be available, but we'll assess sort of how he feels, but trained.
Last week you spoke about the need to trim down the squad. Since that, there's not been any major outgoings. Is it becoming more and more unlikely that you'll be able to bring players in between now and the end of the window?
Not necessarily. These kind of things are pretty fluid. They happen, pretty quickly. At the moment, I think you can see, but just doing the maths, we've got too many players in terms of when we submit our final list. So there'll be guys here who won't be on that list if nothing changes. So I'm pretty sure that'll change, and so from now till sort of the end of the window, I'm sure there'll be some movement.
Hugo Reece is still at the club, training yesterday with the first team. He was looking to leave this summer. Can you see a situation where he stays and competes with the likes of Vicario and Fraser Forster?
Well, as I said, you can't just have any number of players you want. There's a list, and it's unlikely we'll have 3 goalkeepers on our final Premier League list.
And finally for me, Richarlison, he's asked for patience from the fans after being frustrated with his own performance against Manchester United. Are you confident that he can help fill the void left by Harry Kane without directly replacing him, of course?
I don't think he was frustrated with his performance. I think he was maybe a little bit disappointed that a couple of things didn't fall his way, but I wasn't. I thought his performance was very good on the day. He actually played an important part in the way we sort of set up, and it was a real focal point for us. So, I guess with all these things, it's like anything else. People look at outcomes, and with strikers, it's just about goals and nothing else. And I'm sure Richie wants to score goals, but far more important for me is how he's contributing to our team setup. And I thought he was good last week, and from my perspective, that's the key thing. I'm sure the goals will come, but no point getting the goals if the team's not performing.
Roger.
Hi, Ange. Just a couple of games into the season, but I think most observers from the outside, there was a degree of uncertainty about what to expect from Spurs this season, particularly with the Harry Kane situation going on. A couple of games in, a couple of positive results, what looked like tricky fixtures. Have you sensed a feel-good factor of what perhaps a win against Manchester United brings around the place?
Look, I think it's fair to say that, and again, I don't come in with any sort of knowledge or perspective on last year, but I can only work on sort of what's in front of me, and players have certainly been really receptive on what we're trying to do. The staff have been really good, the existing staff, the new staff, again, embracing kind of how we're going to work. And the games we've had so far, the support's been really positive about what we're doing. So that's all I've got to measure. But as you said, we're 2 games in, so I'm not reading too much into anything at the moment. It's more about, like I said, for me, it's about trying to establish some principles, some foundations for the team we want to be. And it always helps when there's positive outcomes early in this phase, because hopefully that just, accelerates belief more than anything else. But it doesn't change the fact that we're still very much at the embryonic stage of any kind of, building of a new team or new way of playing.
Your opponents this weekend are another team that are building a fresh start for them as well. Do you see people like yourself, people like Anthony Areola, as sort of like a new challenge for the old guard in the Premier League, people who are going to come in and freshen things up with a new idea? Do you feel like you're part of something exciting at the moment?
I'm 57 years old, mate.
But just in terms of experience.
Yeah, I guess that's the unique box people still put me in. they kind of compare me to guys who are just beginning their managerial careers, but that's fine. You know, if I'm seen as something fresh and new and, you know, exciting, great. But look, you know, I've said before, okay, I get it. I've had an unusual journey that people can't get their heads around, but I've been doing this for a very long time. And what I've done always is, you know, every role I've had is to try and bring success to the organisation I work for, the clubs I work for, and that's what I'm going to do here. And if that makes an impact beyond the football club that I work for, great, because I love that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure there's a direct comparison with my journey for many managers around the world, mate.
No, I was thinking more in terms of just new managers within the Premier League rather than age. But just on that point, there's only a couple of games in, obviously, for Bournemouth too. Not much to judge them on so far, but from your observations so far, what can you take from what you've seen?
Yeah, like I said, Andoni did a fantastic job in La Liga, tough league, and you can see that he's already trying to, you know, imprint his own style. But I think he'd probably be the same as me in saying that, you know, you need far more than 2 games and, you know, a pre-season to, you know, to put those imprints on your team where you know that they're sort of entrenched in there. And, you know, they've made some signings. They've obviously, you know, a couple of their signings are, you know, you get to sort of make their debut. So I'm sure he's still shaping his team, but yeah, look forward to the challenge. Bournemouth away is a tough challenge. I think you already know, irrespective of going there, that there's definitely a resilience within that group, within that club, because I think for most part every pundit would have had them going down last year, and yet, you know, they ended up being a real, you know, strong opponent and competitor against everyone. So we're under no illusions the challenge of, you know, playing them on their home ground. So looking forward to that, because it'll test us and kind of where we're at the moment.
Sam?
Hi, Ange. Just on James Maddison, if he wasn't to be available, in terms of a replacement for him, are you happy sort of in your system with the players you've got being very, very fluid, I don't know, Son or a Charlison sort of dropping deep and playing that role, or do you kind of look for a specific player to come in and be a specific replacement in that kind of, you know, number 10 role in your system?
No, I think, you know, the kind of way I set up my teams I always have is it's never kind of a like-for-like replacement in anything we do, because I just think you're kind of fixed into one way of playing, and I think every player, you know, brings, you know, their own qualities to an existing structure. It makes you, you know, less predictable. So, you know, if Matters wasn't to play, then, you know, we've got guys like, you know, in the midfield, Pierre and Gio and Skippy, who, you know, can fill that role their own way. And I don't think it would affect us as a team, hopefully. Again, you know, just with the disclaimer that we're still very early in this phase of building a team. But ideally, that's what you want going forward, that if somebody misses out, doesn't mean we need a like-for-like replacement. It's the same with the wingers, same with the, you know, defenders, the strikers. I like players who bring something different, because it allows you to have flexibility within a fairly, you know, defined structure.
Someone that came into the team last week was Sarri midfield, obviously scored and had a great game. Sort of him and Basuma in that middle of the park. You've obviously got like a Bentancur to come back in. How pleased are you with the options you've got in that midfield, and certainly the strength and depth?
Yeah, so far so good. Yeah, you know, like I said, you know, Biss and Pape have been, you know, really good. Yeah, they were here pretty much from when I arrived. You know, a lot of the other guys were away on international duty, so those 2 guys were here pretty much from the start. And you know, they've always had a good energy about them. But you know, Skippy's been good whenever he's played for us, and you know, he brings the same kind of energy. I thought Pierre was really good coming on the weekend. Gio's been a bit unlucky, hasn't got any game time, but, you know, again, been really impressed. So, and we're going to need it. Again, we're 2 games into a long season. We've already seen other clubs having to sort of cope with injuries. I'm sure, you know, at some point that's going to hit us. So we're going to need a strong squad. We've got 3 games next week, so 3 away games. So, you know, we're definitely going to use just about everyone in the squad through that week, so it's important to know that they're ready to go.
And last week in this press conference, we spoke for about 50 minutes about your love for podcasts and Peter Andre and Kylie Minogue. Have you given anything else to try over there? over the last week, or is it just talk football, no time for podcasts, Ange?
I'm not your weekly reviewer or recommender. Mate, do your own research, mate. Yeah.
You used to be though. It was so good last week.
No, that's you can offer something to me. No, it's fair to say that this week and probably next week, most of my time on the road will be spent probably talking to someone with everything that's going on.
Maybe you didn't international break, you try to-
I'll do my best, mate.
Ali?
Can I just ask you exactly what was the problem with James Maddison?
I think it was in the incident with, I think when Romero got brought down and then he had a shot and it was kind of a block tackle, so his ankle was a bit sore after that. So, the medical team sort of looked after him. Obviously people see him in a moon boot and think that something serious, but there was more precautionary and we've been pretty careful with him. There's no real push to have him available, kind of left it up to him, but he's felt really good. Probably could have trained yesterday, but the medical team kind of wanted to run him through and just make sure he was okay. But like I said, he trained today unrestricted, so it just depends how he pulls up. But obviously nothing serious.
A player I want to ask you about, played well at the weekend, Pedro Porro. There were some doubts outside the club that maybe about him fitting into a right-back role rather than a wing-back role, and also the defensive kind of things he'd need to do in that. Do you feel like this was a performance that dispelled some of that?
Again, I'd be reticent to read stuff that's kind of, all-encompassing after one or two games about anybody, whether that's Pedro or us as a team. He performed well last week. He's performed well through his pre-season. I really like him as a player. I think, as a fullback, he's got some really good attributes for the way we want to play. He's very mobile. He's good technically. He covers the ground well, and his instincts are pretty good, both with and without the ball. But he's 23, so we've got a pretty young, apart from Romero, young sort of back four at the moment. And even Emerson's in a similar boat. I think they'll develop as we go along. But both of them, all our fullbacks at the moment have found a real willingness to be open-minded, because it's fair to say the demands of our system on fullbacks is a bit different to others. So you need players who are kind of open-minded enough to want to take that information in, and I think all the boys playing those positions at the moment are really keen to keep exploring kind of the way we play.
Last season and previous seasons, he's used to being starting every single game. It was part of the leadership group. Now, obviously, he's only had those minutes against Man U and not part of your new leadership team. How's he kind of dealing with that? How's he coming across?
Yeah, fine. He's training well. I mean, look, I think, again, I get it that people want to sort of read things into that. It's not, when I announce the leadership group, it's not so much about, the people who are in the building, are experienced, don't have a role to play in that. But if you want to change, you have to change. Like, you can't just keep doing everything the same and keep everything the same and expect a different outcome. I mean, it's pretty obvious, and I've always done that. Wherever I've gone, I've felt that unless I come in and actually change things, whether that's personnel or staff or manner of playing, then what am I doing? Because, I'm definitely not that arrogant to think that just me walking in is going to give us success. That's not how it works. You have to actually make meaningful change, and that's what the club wanted. I assume by appointing me, they wanted to go in a different direction, and then it's about making those decisions that institute change. But it doesn't mean that's not a reflection of anything that's happened in the past or on people in the past. It's about then, with that change, does it bring, more out of people? And Pierre's in that boat. He trains really hard every day. I thought he played a really important role coming on for us against Man U the other day, and he's part of this squad. And I haven't seen any evidence that he's diminished his role or is not happy. But at the end of the day, all of them need to fight for their positions, and they need to fight every day. If we're going to be successful, that needs to happen on a daily basis. So you've got hopefully a couple of players in every position who every day are pushing themselves to be the best they can be.
Okay, we'll end the broadcast section there. Move on to the embargoed section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. Tom? Jamie?
Thank you, Anthony. Good afternoon, Ange. Can I ask you about team news first
first of all, whether everyone's come through training okay this week, and in particular whether Christian Romero can go for it?
Yeah, no. In terms of Christian, he's good to go. We obviously, he's been in the hands of the medical team, just going through all the protocols. It's a pretty, clearly defined sort of process we needed to go through, and he's ticked all the boxes. He's felt fine all week, to be fair to him, and trained and ready to go. And aside from that, no change from last week.
I'm going to take an educated guess that you don't really follow social media, but the reaction to the Brentford game has been overwhelmingly positive. Spurs fans excited about the side playing entertaining front foot football again, about this new era. Is that buy-in from the fans something you are aware of, and is it important to you?
I'm not all over social media, but I'm well aware when things aren't going well. What slowly filters through to me. Look, I'm obviously pleased that our supporters and people associated with the club are feeling positive. It was an okay start for us. We're still very early stages of kind of the way we want to play, the way we want to go about things, and I guess the most positive thing to take out of the first game for us was that we had a lot of things sort of go wrong in that first 45 minutes that aren't sort of part of, you can say you're planning in that, we score first, and then the goal scorer and our most experienced, most accomplished defender in a very young back four has to go off, and then you concede a penalty, which, at the time I'm thinking, it was a bit of a harsh one, and then you watch Monday night and that reframes your thinking, and then we concede an own goal from a guy making his debut. So with all those kind of things in that context, you go, geez, it could have gone south really quickly, but I really liked the way the players reacted to it. So that was the most positive thing for me. It wasn't so much our football, because I still think we've got a long way to go there, but we're going to need resilience this year for sure, because there are going to be many times where we're going to get tested, and I thought that was a good sort of early sign for us.
In terms of the transfer activity, is it fair to say that you need to get players out before you even think about getting players in, or do you feel you still need reinforcements in terms of the incomings as well?
Well, that's the reality of it. We can't just keep acquiring players. I mean, we've got too big a squad as it is at the moment, and it affects your training, it affects the players themselves, because ultimately they all want to play and be involved. So, for us, it's not so much one has to happen for the other, but like I said, our focus right at the moment is to try and trim the squad down, and then see where that takes us in terms of reinforcements. We're constantly assessing that on a daily basis, and there's still 2 weeks to go in the window, and I'm sure you'll see some movement.
In terms of the area on the pitch, is it just a striker in particular that you feel as if you maybe need to bring in?
No, not necessarily. I know that's kind of the obvious place people look at because of recent outgoings, but like I said, we've been planning for that for a while. For me, it's just we just got to. There's still areas I think we can strengthen in all our lines, to be honest. Defensively, midfield, up front. But again, that's not just sort of bringing players in for the sake of it. They've got to fit the sort of profile we're looking at. We've purposely gone a bit younger with our sort of recruiting, because we want to build a team here. It's not about sort of putting some finishing touches to something. We're building something here. So that's the kind of profiles we're looking at.
Just finally for me, sorry to have to bring it up, but I'm sure you watched the Lionesses and Matildas a couple of days ago.
You're really sorry you have to bring it up?
I'm an Irishman. So
Okay, that's true. Fair enough.
Two things. One, will you now be rooting for England in the final? and two, are you happy if we call that the Ashes decider?
No. The Ashes are done, mate. They're back in Australia, and look, it was a great game, and talking to people back home, it's just the way the whole tournament's been embraced is the most important thing for us. I know, obviously, much prefer we'd won and got to the final, but if you know the sort of the history of football in Australia, we don't have many of these moments where the whole country is looking at the game, let alone the team, the Matildas, the national team, but they're just looking at the game. And for people like me and people who sort of grew up. We got Lynchy back there who was in your game over in Australia. It's hard, it's hard to get the game in the papers or on TV or any sort of exposure, and it's been wall to wall, which is brilliant, and it's in the middle of the other code season, which again is gold for us. So hopefully it's everlasting. As to who I'll be going for, I live in England now, and as long as it's a great game and a great spectacle, that's all I'll say, mate.
It's incredibly diplomatic.
Yeah, I will be. Yeah.
Alex?
Hi, Ange. Tomorrow will be the first time you face Manchester United as a head coach. How much are you looking forward to it, and what kind of game are you expecting?
Well, every week will be a first. So I mean, I can't really get up for it because I'll be buzzing all year. So it's a great challenge for us. I mean, the most important thing for us is it's our first home game in the Premier League, and obviously last week, like I said, we showed some really good characteristics in terms of our resilience. Tomorrow's about showing a little bit more about football, and hopefully, against a really strong opponent, try and impose our game style. That's got to be our goal every week now, to see if we can improve the way we play our football and make an impact against the best teams. And that's our challenge tomorrow. I'm sure our fans will be up for it, so I'm looking forward to it. So from my perspective, it's more about sort of, we're at that stage where all our focus has to be on us and developing our football.
And the work Eric Ten Hag is doing at Manchester United has been compared to the work he did at Celtic. How highly do you rate him as a manager?
Yeah, very highly. I mean, obviously followed him from his days at Ajax and previous to that, and he built a great team there, and you can see at Man U, he's made an impact at a club where it's been very difficult to make an impact since Sir Alex retired. So it's not the easiest job in the world, and I've got a great respect for him, as I do for all managers. I think to get to this space where you're managing the Premier League, requires a fair bit of let's just say a body of work to get you to a certain space, and he's earned the right to coach one of the biggest clubs in the world, and I think he's doing a good job.
As you said, your first Premier League game at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. What kind of atmosphere are you hoping for, and do you already feel a strong connection with the Tottenham fans?
Yeah, it'll be. I'm sure it'll be a great atmosphere. We obviously had the friendly game against Shakhtar there, and you could just sense. I mean, it's a great stadium, and I'm looking forward to the atmosphere generated by our supporters, and look, I'm at that sort of funny stage of the supporters at the moment have been very, very supportive, but I don't sort of expect that, nor do I feel worthy of it. I've still got to prove myself to our fans and the people at the club by our deeds rather than sort of our words. And at the moment, we're hopefully giving them some sort of belief in what we're trying to create, but we've still got to back that up and improve on a weekly basis. And we need our supporters behind us. There's no doubt about that. We want the Tottenham ground to be a place where the energy is all on our side. So hopefully that happens tomorrow.
You just said that you're in the early stages, the way you want to play. How long do you think it will take to get this team to where you want it to be?
No idea. I mean, it doesn't work. If there was an exact timeline, I probably wouldn't be as excited about the prospect as I am, because everywhere I've worked it's taken a different amount of time. There's always been a happy ending, so I take solace in that, but the beginnings are always challenging, and how long they last just depends on the players, the competition, the way we're working. Depends on a lot of things, and I don't put timelines on it because I just think, as I said, that's the exciting bit for me. You always hope it happens really quickly for many reasons, but I don't put that sort of expectation on the players. It's just about them understanding how we want to play, how we want to behave, and how we want to approach things. And as I said, different stages we'll see it click in.
And just finally, how pleased are you with the new captain and vice captains? Have they stepped up?
Yeah, they've been good. I mean, Sonny and look, I think he's been captain of his country for a while now, and he's always had, I think, a fairly sort of position in the game where he's well respected by friend and foe. So he's one of these kind of players, and I think You know, he leads by example. He trains hard every day, and I think he's embraced the role, and him and Matters, and obviously Romero. You know, it's theirs now. You know, it's up to them to make it what it is, and I'm sure that they're sort of going through that process now of, you know, really trying to figure out, you know, what kind of leaders they want to be, and the environment. And it's all part of that process.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It felt like a new look Tottenham team last week with a style, and there's obviously quite a few new faces making their debuts. I think Spurs fans were pretty excited with what they saw really from all the debutants. Just how happy are you and pleased are you with how quickly the new guys have settled into this team?
Yeah, pleased. You know, in many respects, they've got no choice. You know, that's the life of a professional footballer these days. We don't have a massive tolerance or patience. You know, we expect them to go in and just hit the ground running. And you know, my expectations of them. Again, I kind of work with them every day. Apart from Mickey, obviously, who came in late. You know, with Destiny and Vic and Matters. You know, making their debuts for the club. They've had a really good pre-season, so you know, I was confident, you know, that they would go out there and acquit themselves well. But you know, Mickey was again, you know, very, very good in the way, you know, he just approached the whole game. I thought he showed a real good temperament for a young guy. I mean, you've got to remember that he's 22. You know, Destiny's 20. So you know, the fact that they had the temperament in a very difficult venue, and like I said, the way the game went in the first half. I thought they really acquitted themselves well, so that's good signs for us. But I think part of that is also the way the whole group's embracing new players. You know, it's a good environment, and they feel like, you know, they feel comfortable enough to then just concentrate on performing.
And he's not a new player, but maybe it's a new start for Ipa Suma in midfield. He came to the club with a big reputation, I guess for different reasons. Maybe didn't live up to that expectation last season, but I mean, he was brilliant, wasn't he, on Sunday? Just how important is he going to be, do you think, moving forward in your team? And is it almost like a fresh start, a new signing for Spurs with him?
Yeah, no, he was good. You know, still areas, you know, he needs to improve, and we're pushing. But yeah, he was good. He's been good all pre-season. And look, it's the same for all the players. I guess irrespective of how, you know, what your history is, every opportunity, every year offers a new opportunity to establish yourself and make an impact and make your mark. And you know, Biss has that opportunity along with others. I mean, ultimately, you know, it's their careers. There's you know, they're not infinite. They're finite. There's an end date to them, and every year that, you know, they don't want to have too many years where they just feel like they haven't made the impact they want. So you know, he's had a good energy about him. He trains well. You know, I think the way we play does suit him for sure. But you know, still areas he's got to improve. And you know, the great thing is, you know, this week he's taken on that information, and hopefully, you know, he keeps developing.
I know it's only the second game of the season, so you won't want to get too high or too low, whatever the result, but there does seem to be a buzz around the place at the moment. Just how important do you think could it be for the whole club just to get a win at home against one of the big boys so early on in the season in terms of confidence around the whole place?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, getting just a win, I don't know if that does anything. If we go out there and win 1-0 and we're not convincing in our performance, yeah, okay, we'll feel good for a couple of days, but that isn't going to give me any sort of real solace that we're heading in the right direction. Strong performance is what we're after. You know, obviously we want to win. I mean, that goes without saying. But you want to win on the back of playing our football, showing signs of progression from last week. You know, trying to impose our game against a really good opponent, and you win that way, and that's how you accelerate belief. But you know, we've got to get we can't be in a situation where there's a desperation just for a result, because then it goes against the grain of everything we're trying to build here. But we fully understand, and I certainly fully understand that for a lot of people that's the only measure, and you've just got to accept that. But for me tomorrow, it's about a strong performance, progression from last week against a really, you know, good opponent, and hopefully that gives us that momentum to keep going.
George?
Angelo, I think the Tottenham fans have found it quite hard going to White Hart Lane in terms of the style of football from the past three managers. So are you just sort of going to entertain the Tottenham fans so that they're excited to come and see this team play? Is that your plan for the season?
My plan is to win. That's the only thing that kind of my focus is. But as I said before, you know, the way we play is important to that. And we can't just sort of, I understand that, last year was a very, very difficult year, but, this club's been in a, pretty good shape for the last sort of X amount of time. You can go back as far as you want. Okay, they haven't had the ultimate success, but they've been, in the hardest league in the world, they've been a very, very good side. So I don't think the whole experience of the Tottenham supporters over the last few years has been that negative. I just think of the backdrop of last year for sure. But I don't want to sell them false hope. This is not. They're not coming to. They're not coming to a carnival. It's a football match, and they want to go home with the 3 points. But within that context, I want us to play football that does excite them for sure, and not just them, but I want everyone sort of talking about the way we play. And I think that's always been my sort of marker as to making an impact, and within that context, that takes us to the point where we have success. But it's not. I'm not. It's not about sort of making them happy. It's about giving them joy that comes from suffering. And I mean, I'll say that because I listened to a podcast during the week, and I just thought it was a great sort of description of what football is about. It's not about being happy, because you actually suffer a game of football until that joyous moment when the ball goes in the net or you win the game. And that's kind of, I thought, a nice way of sort of what I'm trying to do is just bring them joy, but understand there's going to be some suffering within that.
What was the podcast?
It was Louis Theroux interviewing Australian singer. What's his name? Oh, escapes me now. Louis Theroux. It was a little bit deeper than that. Nothing against Peter Andre, obviously. He's a fantastic talent. It just escapes me for the moment.
It was a good podcast. You like Louis Theroux?
It was interesting. I like listening to things. I like reading things. If something sort of pops up that I sort of piques my interest, I'll always. You never stop learning, mate. It's funny that. So, and the best way to do that is listen. Don't talk too much.
Thank you.
No, my pleasure.
Ali?
Sorry, I was just trying to cut podcasts there. Mickey van der Ven mentioned earlier, he's got called up today for the Dutch side for the first time. How much does that vindicate his move to Spurs, and just how high do you think his ceiling is?
Look, we signed him because we believe that he's got some great attributes and great profile and some great potential. But I wouldn't go as far as to say one game sort of justifies all those things. Mickey knows that he's here to challenge himself for sure. He's here to improve. He's here to kind of hopefully develop into the defender that he wants to be, and we believe he can be, in the toughest possible environment. I mean, he only had 1 year in the Bundesliga, and before that he was at Volendam. He wasn't like at one of the big Dutch clubs with respect to Volendam. So, he's made some enormous leaps, and which was encouraging to me because it meant that this is another enormous leap that he'll be able to handle it. But, he'll be the first to say that one game is not what he came here for. He's here to, like I said, to challenge himself. He's going to be facing some of the world's greatest strikers on a weekly basis, and that'll be his challenge. But he's a willing learner. Like I said, he came with that mindset, and our role is to provide that environment now. That's our responsibility. We've taken the potential, now is to give him the environment to turn that potential into what he can be.
Ahead of tomorrow's match, Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust are doing a demonstration outside the ground about the increase in matchday ticket prices. Obviously now you're the man that's going to kind of provide what they're paying to watch, I guess, obviously, from the sidelines. What do you make of all of that?
God, I think my role within that is to, as you said, to make sure that the stuff I'm in control of, they respond to in a positive way, because ultimately it's their football club. So to be fair, it's not an unusual space for me. I know people talk about the treble I won at Celtic, but the beginnings of Celtic were very similar. There was there's a lot going on and off the field at the time, and it's only natural when football clubs have a disappointing period that there's going to be that kind of environment where there is going to be people unhappy. But my role within that is, like I said, to hopefully get people to focus on what we're all here for, and that is, you know, the football club and the players and the team and having success. And there's no doubt that we'll get there quicker if we're united, you know, on and off the field, absolutely. But I've never, and I never will, you know, tell people how to feel or how they should behave in terms of the context of expressing, you know, their emotions. I think, you know, that's their right. They've earned that right to do that. And my role in that is to try and produce a team that hopefully gets us united to what's most important.
Very different topic. Dane Starr, I just wondered what your plans are for this season. Is he going to stay with you and develop, or go away and develop something else?
Yeah, we'll just see. He's been really good. I've been really impressed with him since I've come in. He had a bit of an injury which set him back a little bit pre-season. So, but we're keeping him with us at the moment. You know, I'll probably make a decision on Dane sort of the next couple of weeks about whether, you know, it's always a fine balancing act whether, you know, they stay with us in the training environment, you know, depending on sort of game time we think they'll get, as opposed to going out and you know, getting some meaningful game time at his age. So we'll make that decision, but I'm really happy with the way he's developed, the way he's you know, the way he's training, and you know, we'll make that decision over the next sort of week or so.
Okay, last couple of this section, Charlie and then George, please.
Obviously you've watched a huge amount of Premier League already, but was there anything that surprised you from actually managing a game last week?
Well, we didn't start because there was a lack of water.
Other than the sanitation issues.
So there's the first for you, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty of football. You know, it doesn't matter how long I've been in it. There's always something new. No, look, aside from that, not really. I mean, it was like I said, the game was okay. There was a fair bit going on, particularly in that first half, and you know, my sort of view of that was that, you know, like I said, I was really pleased with the way we responded to what happened. But yeah, it was still a game of football, mate, where you're trying to, you know, prepare a team and then, you know, sort of hopefully seeing the things that you've worked on and the information you've given come to fruition in some way, shape or form. And that was the focus on the day. Yeah, I can see why it's a difficult place to go and win games. Yeah, they create, you know, it's obviously a small, tight ground. They create a really good atmosphere. They get behind their team, and they're a very well organised, structured side. But yeah, we kind of knew that going into it.
How different then would it be playing United tomorrow, a team, you know, Brentford are a very well organised team defensively, maybe don't attack as much as some teams. How different would the challenge be tomorrow?
Yeah, it'll be different, but I think every sort of game's different. I think, you know, you kind of look at teams, and the first thing you try and identify is there a sort of, you know, real sort of pattern in the way they play, and usually that's on the back of, you know, how long they've been doing it that way in the manager. And obviously with Brentford, Thomas has been there for quite a while, so you can see it's firmly ingrained in their players and in their methodology. And I think it's the same with Eric now. He's kind of in that period where the players are slowly grasping again. You know, you can see there's a consistency in the way they do things, and that's what you kind of first thing you try and identify. So the challenge is different, but you know, is it well established, or is it something that's new, or something that's a different direction? And like I said, that it'll be a different challenge, but no less, you know, challenging, as I said, because you know, they've got a team that's sort of been working on it for a fair while now.
How hard is it as well to get the balance right between, obviously you want to focus on, you know, what you're doing as Spurs being the protagonist of the game, but also accepting that you do need to be conscious of what the opponents do?
I think you always do that, but you know, my fallback position on that is, particularly in these early stages, it's still got to be about us. You know, I think if we focus too much on you know, negating the opposition, then we're not really building. You know, what we're doing again is surviving, and again, there's a desperation around the result, which I understand. Like I said, that's some people's only measure, but you know, I'd much rather focus, you know, on you know, can we impose our game style on a very good opponent? You know, that's got to be our ambition tomorrow. That's where we're going to lean towards, rather than sort of you know, spending too much time or focusing too much on what an opposition you know, potentially has to offer or where they can hurt us.
George?
Hi, and you just mentioned there that it's almost don't feel worthy of the fans' support so far. At the start of last weekend's game, and they were singing your name for a long time, 3-4 minutes. How much did that mean to them?
Yeah, it means a lot, but like I said, I'm not comfortable with it because and you love what it means because it's, for the most part, it's just blind faith. I haven't yet delivered anything. Hopefully when the day comes that we deliver as a team, then you kind of it means something different then. But I don't dismiss it either because that's, like I said, that's people taking a huge leap of faith on me as an individual, and I appreciate that. But it also, it's a really good reminder of the responsibility I have. I've got to pay that back. That faith and support that at the moment is on the back of very little. We've got to start producing stuff that's substantial, so we kind of take that credit when it's deserved.
And just with the fans process, the fans made a conscious effort to do that outside the stadium a couple of hours before the match. The plan is to make the atmosphere inside the stadium as good as possible so that it doesn't affect the players. How much do you appreciate that they're sort of separating the two from supporting the players whilst also having their moment?
Yeah, I mean it is important. As I said earlier, I think ultimately with all these things, the first thing you kind of question is the motive of why people are doing it, and that's something I can't answer because I wasn't here. So like I said, I can't tell people how to feel, but like I said, what I do know is if we are united, as a football club, supporters, everyone involved in and out of the club, during those 90 minutes or 120 minutes, depending on how much extra time we have, it gives us our best chance of success. And ultimately that's why we all do it. For all, you can, in every family you can have disagreements, but you come together, hopefully at the dinner table, and sort of, embrace the fact that we are a family, and we're going to need our supporters tomorrow for sure. But our role in that is to give them something to get excited about.
Just finally, Hugo is still at the club. Is there much change in that situation? Does it feel like he's closer to final?
Yeah, look, I'm not really across it. Like I said, with the outgoings, I'm not for any other reason that I have very little control over it, and also, my focus has to be on sort of what's in front of us right now. He's obviously training, but I think with all these things, I'm assuming that over as we get close to the window, they'll all sort of accelerate, I expect.
Okay, we'll end the broadcast section there. Move on to the embargoed section, please, for 10:30 p.m. tonight. Tom?
Congratulations, Ange. Is that the kind of football you wanted to bring to Tottenham Hotspur?
Yeah, look, it was good today for sure. Obviously, going a goal down again, you get tested, and particularly after midweek, and you're looking for what sort of reaction the lads have. And I thought they were outstanding and just staying really calm, clear-headed, and playing our football. And we grew into the game. Once we got the grips with it, I thought we were really dominant in just about every area, and maybe a little bit wasteful in the first half and the front third, but then second half we got really clinical, and can't praise the players highly enough in the way that they navigated the challenges we had today.
A lot of people outside the pitch maybe thought you might go for another 9 in the window. You were quite clear that probably wasn't so. Is Son's performance today exactly why you didn't need it?
No, it's not exactly why, but it's one of the reasons. You kind of, I've got a picture in my head about what I want the team to look like, and again, I keep saying sort of we're still at the beginning of it. We're still building. There's still a lot to be done, and it's about sort of putting all the pieces together, and at the same time not neglecting what's right in front of you. And there's some really good footballers at this club, and I think they have the ability to play in the way that this team needs to set up, and you know, Sonny, whether he's playing central or wide, you know, he's got all the sort of characteristics that, oh mate, he can play in any system, but the way we want to play, he's ideal.
Just only because it's the first chance to ask you, Brennan Johnson, why did you want to bring him to the club?
Just another exciting young player. You know, he's a real threat in the front third. He's a bit different to what we've already got. Like I said, he's young, he's ambitious. It's no secret that that's kind of been the model for me, you know, not just here, I've done that wherever I've gone. I think it's just about as much the person you're bringing in as the footballer, and, you know, looking at him, he's going to fit in really well with this group because he's, like I said, he's really ambitious, he's hungry, he wants to sort of take his game to another level, and like I said, the technical and the physical attributes he has, I think he'll fit in really well with us.
Just the last one for me. Anything that you wanted in the window and couldn't get? I know you wanted another centre-back, you said at one point.
No, it's you know, it's you kind of, when you go through these things, you always understand that there's so many moving parts that I think rarely you come out of it with, you know, an ideal picture, but it doesn't mean it's not a picture that can still work, you know. It's just, you know, we've still done a fair bit in a short space of time. I think I said yesterday, you know, you look at the team we've got now, we've virtually changed half a starting lineup, the way we play, the way we train, totally new coaching staff, training, you know. It was never going to be one window, this rebuild, and you know, where we sit at the moment, I'm really happy with the players we've brought in.
James Maddison, I mean, he gets fouled a lot, he gets stick from the crowd, but he doesn't go hiding, does he? Always wants the ball. Is that kind of a real strength of his, that he kind of thrives on that situation?
Yeah, look, he's very. I mean, obviously, I've only got to know him recently as a person, but he's a pretty strong, resilient guy. You know, mentally strong. He likes, I think, not to be targeted, but he wants the ball. You know, he wants it in all situations. He has that quality, and I thought today was a real testament to Sonny, Matters, and Romero. They all scored, but you know, those three who, you know, are kind of thrust into leadership positions, the way they've embraced that responsibility, not just with words but with actions, and not just on game day, on a daily basis. I think, you know, that's as encouraging for me as anything, because you know, as fantastic players they are individually, they're really bought into that team ethic, and Matters is one of those. You know, it's not just, I mean, he's so creative, and today he showed how clinical he was in front of goal. But just his preparedness to work hard for the team, I think, is a great example.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The deal was basically done, imminent. Do you have any words for Harry to speak to him?
No, I mean, he sent me a message and I kind of sent a message back. But yeah, it was like, again, I don't think either of us were surprised by the outcome. And we've been talking all along anyway, you know. We've kind of, whether that's about his situation or about the football club, you know, the way I kind of treat these things is while they're here, they're still part of the club, you know. I don't sort of isolate them or treat them differently because I know they're leaving, you know. So we've been having discussions along the way, and so again, like, it wasn't really a surprise or something that, you know, either of us needed to sort of address with what's happened.
And some fans were sort of getting a bit excited or hoping that there might be some sort of buyback clause in this transfer. Is there anything you can reveal on that? Is there any chance that one day he could come back to Tottenham?
No idea, mate. I've got no idea about the details of the deal, but he'll definitely be back at Tottenham one day, in one capacity or another. And you know, like I said, when you have a career like he has at one football club, you're never not part of it. Put it that way.
Matt?
Yeah, I just wonder when it seemed like the deal was going to happen this morning, what the mood was like in the dressing room amongst the other players, whether Harry's had a chance to say goodbyes to anybody at all, or might he come back and do that?
I mean, I don't really venture into the dressing room, mate. I'll leave that to the players.
Or around the training ground?
Yeah, I found out really early in my career, mate, football clubs, players move on pretty quickly. You know, we like to think that, you know, that we kind of dwell on things, but we don't. There's no time to. You know, these players know that in sort of 48 hours we've got our first Premier League game. That's where their focus is. I'm sure Harry has reached out or will reach out at some point to all the playing group, you know, but, you know, he hasn't been in to sort of say his goodbyes or anything like that. And like I said, the mood is the mood you'd expect 2 days out from a season opener. You know, the guys are pretty focused on making sure we're ready.
Matt?
And you said you've sort of known this from the first time you spoke to Harry. Have you sort of known this from the moment you took the job?
Yeah, pretty much.
Was it part of the conversation, or did it not matter?
What do you mean, did it not matter?
You want the job, either way Harry's going.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, it's not part of the contract negotiations. If that's what you're asking, then I need certain players to stay. I mean, you kind of do your due diligence whenever you take a job, and hopefully I was well researched enough to know what was going on in the background, and you have these conversations with people, and you know, I think it was in the public arena about sort of the outcome. When a player of Harry's stature is going to the last year of your contract, again, you don't need some deep investigative research to figure out what's going on. So, you know, I kind of knew going into it that, again, this was going to be more than likely the outcome.
You understand the appeal for him of joining Bayern Munich?
Yeah, look, again, I'm reticent to get into other people's shoes, mate, because if people sort of did that for me, I wouldn't be comfortable in people speaking for me. You know, Harry's, you know, he's got his own circle of people that he would speak to about these things, and why he, you know, he's come to this decision in his life and his career, and you know, he's the best one to explain whether I understand it or not is relevant, because I don't have all the information he does. You know, it's easy for me to sit here and say, well, I would have stayed or I would have gone, but I don't live his life. I don't know what he sort of, where he's at in terms of the same way, like I said, if people started making assumptions about me and my decisions about why I do things, I think it's unfair, so I wouldn't do that with Harry.
Yeah, sorry.
Hello, Ange. My name's Michael Yukumi. I'm from the Greek Cypriot newspaper Badidiaki, based in London. I mean, you left Greece with your family at the age of 5 and went to Australia. And how did you get into football? And finally, did you ever dream of being a Premier League manager?
Thank you for that. No, look, I'm very proud of my roots. I've spoken about them extensively. You know, I'm the son of an immigrant. We went halfway around the world, and my parents made enormous sacrifices, and I wouldn't be sitting here without them doing that. And you know, that football has been the vehicle of you know, me allowing me to live my life and have the life I have, and the beautiful family I have, and the friends I have. But that's on the back of you know, two parents who basically sacrificed their own life for the betterment of their kids, and it's not a unique story. It's quite a common one. So I'm forever thankful for that.
Matt?
Harry Stoll.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'm going to be the bad guy and go back to Harry.
It's okay. It's all right. I'm fine with it. Don't worry.
Those of us who've watched Tottenham for a long time, without obviously it's been incredible, there has been an argument that the club have been overly reliant on him, and the team at times have been overly reliant on him. Is there any element in terms of trying to look at this positively of taking the plaster off, you know, ripping the plaster off a little bit, suffering a bit of pain that could get something good out of it?
Yeah, look, I mean, and I get where you're coming from, but that's like I said, that's doing a great disservice to a guy who did some unbelievable things. Like, you know, you kind of, there wouldn't be a manager in the Premier League or any club in the world that wouldn't want Harry Kane in their team. Like, that's the reality of it, you know. So, you can't say that, you know, that because he's here, that's sort of stymied the club into having success. I just don't buy into that. I just think, you know, he's done what his utmost to try and have success at this football club, and it hasn't worked for a number of reasons. What we do know about this game is that it's very, very, very rare that an individual will be the difference. It's usually the collective. So what that offers us now, as you said, an opportunity to build a collective that brings us success. And within that context, you still want outstanding individuals. You still want the best players. That doesn't change. You know, it's not like you kind of dismiss someone just because he's been part of something that hasn't been successful. You know, that might be because of other reasons rather than what he's trying to bring to it.
Dan?
Just to follow up on that, Ange, there is obviously going to be a kind of vacuum in the dressing room in terms of leadership and on the pitch in terms of goals. Do you see, in a positive way, you know, that being filled by other players stepping up and perhaps kind of emerging from Harry's shadow, as it were?
Well, potentially, like I said earlier, that's all you can do is create that space and then see what grows from there, because you know, that there is sometimes that element of it where, you know, people maybe suppress themselves to a certain extent because they understand that there's, you know, a unique individual in the room that you know, has such great presence and is such a force on and off the field that having that space there maybe does, but there's no guarantee that does either. You know, that just the opportunity is there, put it that way, as you said. And with all these things, there's opportunities. What you've got to try and do is what the great clubs do, the great organisations, is replace greatness with greatness. Now, how that comes about is not easy. You know, it's not easy, but that's what the big clubs do. You know, they find a way to sustain and maintain and grow, even when the greatest, you know, leave their doors.
And over the years, I suppose, when Harry's been injured in the past, there's always been this debate about whether Son is a striker. Some of your predecessors made it very clear he wasn't a striker. Others thought he could play there. Do you think he could play through the middle, kind of, you know, semi-regularly for you? Do you see that being an option?
Yeah, I don't see it. I wouldn't rule it out. I've known Sonny for a long time and you know, watched his career develop. There's no doubt he could play centrally in my mind, especially the way we play. I mean, again, you know, I think that's where the nuances lie, is that different managers have different ways of setting up their team. And in some teams, yeah, I could see where Sonny couldn't play as a central striker, but the way we play and the way we're going to play, yeah, I definitely see him as an option to play in the central area.
And just one for Leeds, is it kind of how far away, how ready is he to play minutes in the Premier League?
Yeah, no, it'd be a while for him. I think we just got to let him settle again. He's come halfway around the world. He's a young guy. Yeah, it's a fairly different level. He's one we will invest in the long term, but I wouldn't expect him to see any minutes over the sort of first part of the season.
Okay, Ed, finish with this section with you, please.
I'm just going to ask if you don't have to tell us something, but what could you say to Harry, your message, just wish him all the best?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say, mate, but yeah.
And I'm just interested in your role now with the boys that Harry's going to leave. How important is it that you give them a platform to step up to his shoes?
Yeah, you know, again, I didn't wake up this morning kind of trying to cultivate that. That's been happening all along. You know, hopefully, you know, obviously it's difficult for all you guys to see that because you're not here every day, but we've been trying to do that anyway. Like that, like I said, it's, I guess, the finality of it all today kind of hits everyone, and everyone's kind of going, what next, but this is not new for me. This is 6 weeks or 5 weeks into knowing that this was going to happen. So we've kind of been cultivating that anyway, in the way we've been going about things on and off the field. So nothing really changes there.
Okay, and we'll end the embargoed section there and move on to the Sunday section finally. Rob, yeah, we'll do it in here. Rob and James. Ali?
Congratulations, Ange. What did you make of the performance and the atmosphere today?
Atmosphere was incredible. Our supporters were outstanding today. Just, you know, the energy they created in the stadium right from the first whistle was just brilliant. And to be honest, I thought it helped us. In the first half, I thought we just looked a bit nervous and a bit edgy for sort of half an hour or so, and probably fortunate to still be in the game. We just, we're giving the ball away cheaply and allowing them to sort of, come at us. But at the same time, it's not surprising. We had, a couple of 20-year-olds out there, 22-year-old, a couple of 23-year-olds. It's a really young team we're putting out there. So, but I just thought there was really encouraging signs towards the end of the first half and the last sort of 5-10 minutes, and we got them in half time and just sort of settled them down a little bit. And I thought the boys were brilliant. They came out great energy, took the game to Man U and scored a good goal, and then didn't stop from there. Had to defend, but we did that well. Vic pulled off a couple of good saves, so encouraging signs there.
You mentioned the age, obviously, a couple of Saar, one of the young players. I mean, how impressive is that in this atmosphere and that kind of pressure to put in a performance like that? Yeah,
brilliant. And he's been great from the moment I arrived. He's got a great energy about him, and but he's got quality there too. He's one of these midfielders that really causes opposition's problems, because whether it's him running with the ball or running without the ball, he runs forward, he runs aggressively, he disrupts oppositions, and he's just got a great temperament for a young guy. So really pleased for him.
You spoke yesterday about wanting not only to win the game but also to do it with a performance. How much do you think you did the second part of that?
I thought, like I said, there were encouraging signs there. I don't think it was a victory on the back of, a backs to the wall, desperate performance. I thought, there was elements of it, particularly in the second half, where we showed the kind of team we want to be, and that's what you're looking for. And, I'm not silly enough to think that, 2 weeks into a season and, 6 or so weeks into my tenure, that we're going to be putting in complete performances. But what you want to see is, some sprouts of growth in terms of the team we want to be, and I definitely saw that, and real resilience too. We had to show it in the first game, and with things that sort of went against us, and today, we could have gone into our shells in the second half, but if anything, we got more brave and more courageous in our football, and we got the rewards.
Yeah, how much is that about fitness? How much is that about mentality? The fact that both games feel like Spurs have been much better side in the second half.
Oh, it's just sometimes the nature of the games, the way they flow. Different games. I just thought today, like I said, we were just edgy in the first half. We weren't doing the simple things, and human nature. The boys were probably trying really hard to impress and probably overcomplicating the game. And once they simplified the game, and there were some obvious areas there we could hurt them, then they got to grips with that and sort of committed to it in the second half.
Just when you make those decisions on team, they're obviously big decisions. You've quite experienced players on the bench and young players. So is it just a feeling you've got, or is that just completely the way you want to go?
I'd like to think I know what I'm doing, mate. So, but yeah, look, some of it's especially in the early stage. I think part of what I need to do at the moment is kind of just explore, the squad and the individuals within it. It'd be just silly of me at this point to sort of stick with some sort of formula in terms of team lineup, because unless I expose some of these guys to this level trying to play our football, I won't find out about them. So it could have been very easy not to make any changes, because the guys who dropped out, Emerson and Skippy didn't do anything wrong last week. They put in great efforts, but I wanted to see Pape, I wanted to see Pedro, and there's others I want to see, and we'll use this without disrupting the cohesion of the team. But this early bid is an opportunity for me to see guys out there and give them a taste of it as well, because I think that then, feeds into, their development, that, if they're out there and they can see they can do it, that gives us more personnel to work with moving forward.
Ian?
And I know it's a team game, but how did you feel personally about getting your first Premier League win under your belt and hearing the crowd singing your name?
Yeah, it's nice. I kind of, you separate yourself from that stuff, because what's more important to me right now is that if we're if we're going to continue to sort of go down this road, is that, I said before the game that we really need an energy, particularly here at home, and it would have been a shame today that, because you could tell the crowd were up for it if we were flat in our performance, and not so much, obviously you want to win, and that sort of gives everyone the joy they need, but I thought the manner in which we played, it's a great starting point. So when the final whistle goes, you kind of, from my perspective, that's fantastic, fertile ground for me to keep going, rather than sort of, like I said, if we had a flat performance today, it would have been hard. We would have had to work hard. But at the same time now, that kind of, leaves a fairly decent benchmark that we've got to match now, because that's the expectation that we go out there, and because we did it against a very good team today, we do that on a weekly basis.
The success here helped the wider Australian game, how the Australian game is seen worldwide, do you think, given the high-profile nature of this job?
I battle with that, mate. I really don't know. I really don't know whether we'll ever crack Australia. I hope so. I think the Women's World Cup was a brilliant tournament. I'm not watching any more of it. Obviously the Premier League's always been the most watched league in Australia anyway, so now they have a vested interest. So it's great, but how much of an impact that has, I'm not really sure. But from my perspective, it's not just for me, I guess, for other guys with, I don't know if there are too many with similar backgrounds to mine, but I've worked 26 years in the game. It's not that I feel I've earned this opportunity, it's just that I don't see any reason why I shouldn't be given this opportunity.
And so I think the 39 shots today, it was incredible end-to-end entertainment. How important is it to you to not just to win, but to entertain the crowd?
Yeah, I prefer more of the 39 with our end than the opposition. We don't design it so that the opposition will create chances, but it's part of it. I think it's a consequence of how we want to play, and particularly at the moment where it's fair to say it's not really embedded in us as a group. So that's going to leave us susceptible at times to the opposition attacking us. But again, I thought, again, you don't want it to happen by design, but I thought it was great that Vicario made a couple of brilliant saves today, just for his confidence, his self-belief. I mean, it's only his second game in the Premier League, so it's great that he was able to do that. It was great for our back four that they could sort of defend when they needed to against a very good opponent, strong opponent. So, but yeah, we want to entertain for sure. I think it's important, but entertain in terms of play football that brings success. That's still what it's underpinned by.
Full-backs and centre-halves into the box, going 2v2 or 3v3 at the back, even when you're leading. That's the contrast what's been happening here for the last 2 or 3 years. Have the players had to be persuaded, or have they really embraced it and bought into that?
Look, you never know that. I mean, there's probably elements at the moment they're doing it because I'm telling them to do it, but I think there's been enough in the first 2 games for me to see that they want it themselves, because there's been plenty of opportunities in both these games for us to veer away from that at this early stage, and it would be understandable. So, I said last week, we scored after 10 minutes and we lose our most experienced defender from a young, defensive line. The guy scored the goal, and then we get a penalty and an own goal against us, and it would have been very easy for that group just to then go, this isn't working, this is not the way we want to go, but we were resilient. It was the same today, we were nervy, we gave the ball away at the start. Plenty of opportunity for us to say, look, let's stop playing, let's just go long and be more direct. And as you said, even at the 2-0, we didn't sit back, we still pressed the goalkeeper, we still tried to be aggressive. So that tells me that some of it is fueled by them. It's not just because I'm telling them to do it, which is great, because ultimately that's, if we're going to get to where we want to, it's got to be driven by the players. They've got to believe in it and understand it. And my role and the coach's role is to keep giving them that sort of guidance and information.
Well, at the end, after you dressed out the players and seen the ref, and before you went to the fans, it just looked like you took a moment in the centre circle just to look around. What was going through your mind then?
Like I said, I just, you want to feel that moment, because I've always said that to me, I love what football does to people, particularly, you know, in those moments. So you kind of take a moment to think about the 60,000 or whatever that were here, or the ones watching at home, but they're going to be smiling for the rest of the week, you know. I love that it does that, the game, and you know, for me that moment's just about sort of appreciating that I'm pretty blessed to be doing what I'm doing and be in the middle of, you know, a stadium leading a fantastic football club, and then you start thinking about next week, mate. So,
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.